Hi, Democrats. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. So, I've been a little bit off track. And, when I first started doing this, well, lately I've said I'm doing bills, elected officials, and so today I do want to talk about bills. Even though we're not in session, we're coming up. We're 4 weeks shy by a day, 4 weeks before we go into our special session to talk about redistricting. But I want to talk about some troublesome legislation just to get us all back into the swing of things about, us being in session. So I want to remind folks about Bill 1674, which was the Run Over the Protesters bill. This was a bill that was put forth because, there was a protest in 2020 where a motorist ran a protester off of an overramp in Tulsa. The protester, I know is disabled. I believe he broke his back, but I don't want to tell tales. But here's the reality. He's disabled. There were all the summer of 2020, there were protests all over the nation about the fact that an inordinate amount of unarmed folks, particularly folks of color, were being killed by the police. And I pick my words carefully. I mean, being killed by the police, and folks were taken to the streets to let their voices be heard. And so the retaliation, and this retaliation happened all over the nation. 3 states passed the law, Oklahoma, Iowa, and Florida, that said, you know what? If there is a protest going on, and you get to decide what a protest is, because in the state of Oklahoma, all it means is 3 people together voicing their opinion about a thing that can be deemed a protest. So if you encounter a protest and you are afraid, and let me just go ahead and put afraid in the fake quotes, you are afraid, then you can run over the people that you've deemed to be protesters without worrying about being charged criminally nor civilly. That's HB 1674 that was passed through the State House and Senate, and then signed by our governor, and is now a law. Not only is it okay to run over protesters, but if you organized a rally, a march, any kind of action that turns into a riot, whether it's people you invited, people you know, people who are part of it, if you're the one who got the permit, you can be charged with organized crime. The fines are up to $50,000. Do not be confused. This isn't about protesting. This isn't about Black Lives Matter. What this is about is silencing our right to free speech and peaceably organize. But right now in Oklahoma, that's our law. That's our law. It got there because our Republican-led legislature put it there, and we didn't have enough Democrats to counter it. So it passed through the House and Senate, and our governor, who wants to hang out with the big boys, who wants to be seen as the most conservative governor, signed it. So I'm sorry, I didn't think I could be mad about it all over again, but I'm mad about it all over again. Then we have HB 1775, which is the be careful what parts of history you talk about so that you don't upset anybody law. And I'm going to call it that because those are the words that are in the legislation. There's nothing in the legislation that talks about critical race theory, now being known as CRT, which everybody is talking about like it's a real thing that happens in K through 12. It doesn't. It hasn't. No one was planning on it. But they figured it out. If we talk about critical race theory and we call it critical race theory, we can scare folks. And it worked. And it's worked all over the nation. And we're still talking about critical race theory as if it's a concept that would be introduced in first, second, or third grade. Critical race theory is a college level course. And if we're just being honest, let's start there. It's a college level course. I don't even want to get into the fact that for me, an African American female who went to school in the 70s and 80s, the history that I was taught made me feel bad. But you persevere. And so this whole concept that if we tell the history and we let folks of the current majority learn how they got to that position, that somehow it will make them feel bad. No. Exposure makes people do better. You know, when you know better, you do better. Exposure makes you do better. And if folks understand what it is that we're doing without all the scare tactics and the boo-hooing and the threatening school boards, we could be a better nation. Just full stop. Exposure makes you better. So 1775. I'm talking about these for a reason. We didn't have enough legislators to stop that bill from passing through the state Senate and House, and our governor signed it into law. And that one had an emergency clause on it, and it had to go into law this summer because there weren't enough legislators to fight it. Then we have partisan gerrymandering. Our legislature again, led by the Republicans, and they basically get to drive the map process. But here's the thing. Scott, if you could put up the map. So this is our congressional district map, right? The different colors represent our 5 congressional districts. Orange is where I live. That's Tulsa. That's where I live. That's orange. Now, in that corner where there's a little bit of purple, that area is North Tulsa, which is a predominantly African-American precinct area, predominantly African-American. That has been carved out. And the folks in that district are represented by the same congressmen as the person who are represented in this bottom corner here under the panhandle. Not the same issues. North Tulsa is decidedly urban, part of a big city. And Harmon County, there are less than 3,000 people in that county. It's largely agricultural, and it was a carve out as a favor to somebody in Ohio. Doesn't make sense that they're represented by the same congressman. Doesn't make sense. This is what our map looks like now. Some of the proposals that are being discussed right now, go ahead and leave the map up, please. Some of the proposals that are being discussed right now are, I didn't think that they could mess up the map anymore. But what they're trying to do now is cut out the largely Hispanic districts in Oklahoma County, I'm sorry. So first of all, they're trying to break up a county. And then what they're trying to do is they're trying to carve out a district by race, which is unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. But what they're trying to do is carve out folks who might consider voting Democrat and dilute them by purple, because purple is this congressional district 3 is decidedly Republican. It goes Republican 10 times out of 10 times. They haven't had a Democrat congressman in recent history. So what they're trying to do is move those votes into congressional district 3 and completely dilute them. What that does is it breaks up districts by race, which is unconstitutional. But beyond unconstitutional, or even why it's unconstitutional, is that you dilute the voice. You are making sure that Hispanic Americans aren't voting in a clump so that their needs are, and I'm not suggesting that Hispanic Americans, African Americans, or even Caucasian Americans are a monolith. But if you live in the same district, chances are you have the same ideas, which is why you move to that district. And this trying to break it up and move the Hispanic districts into congressional district 3, beyond being racist and cynical, is unconstitutional, but that's what's going on. And they will most likely be successful because we don't have enough votes to break it up. We don't have enough votes to put up a real fight. I want to give a shout out to Representative Jose Cruz, who was in there in the meeting now putting up a fight. But there just aren't enough of us, or not enough of us who show up to vote to make it a real fight. But that's real, and that's what's going on right here in the Oklahoma legislature. And I just, for me, we're in the middle of election season, but I talk to people, and not that many folks are considering it to be election season right now, and they're not thinking about it. And I want you guys to start thinking about it. And so you ask, what is the party doing? Well, we're rolling out tools to help you organize. We're rolling out, a database for your group to help you organize so that you can reach out to people and set up days of action and register folks to vote. We're registering folks to vote, and we're recruiting candidates. Now, what can you do? You can for real register people to vote. Just don't tell people you are, because every time I talk to somebody, they tell me that they're working on an initiative to register folks to vote. The numbers aren't moving. So I don't know if I believe y'all, but for real, register folks to vote. Be a candidate, support a candidate. Find me a candidate. If you don't want to have that conversation, give them to me and I will have that conversation. We've got to change the makeup of our legislature so that things can happen in a real way. That's how you can help. Support a candidate. And supporting a candidate isn't just money, but money is important because they need to be able to get those flyers in your mailbox. They need to be able to show up at places. They need to be able to do those things. They need your money. They need your time. Support a candidate. Tell people, share their social media, become a candidate. Those are the things, and we have to do that, or we're just going to keep seeing these dangerous kinds of laws passed without us putting up a real fight. We have to help our legislators by giving them company, by giving them some support, by doing days of action. It's a big deal. I come here every day trying to say whatever the thing is to get you invited, get you interested, get you invested, get you doing things. I hope today that a couple of you who are watching, call your county officer and ask them how you can help. Call your legislator and ask them how you can help. We have got to make a change, a real change. And I'm begging you, there are 12 days left in the month. Register 6 more people. Register 6 Democrats by November 1st. You're going to have to go looking for them. You're going to talk to them. They can be people who finished serving their time. They can be people who are turning 18. They can be people who haven't felt like their voice mattered. Their voice didn't matter if they didn't cast it. Find 6 people by November 1st and register them to vote. Don't just tell me you're registering folks to vote. Actually register 6 folks to vote. All righty. Thanks for joining me, and I will be back here tomorrow at 4:15. Have a great day.